I've got my Tim Hortons. I'm not a big fan of the blueberry one, I must say. I've got my jazz music, which I'll turn down a little bit so you can hear my amazing voice, and I've got my haircut, proper Carrie Bradshaw now. And we are going to be talking about a completely unrelated topic to all of these things that maybe you think, you know, quite new, quite cozy. We're going to be talking about forgiveness today. I don't think we as a society realise how powerful anger is as an emotion. It's a emotion that I think rises out of a sense of justice. If you feel injustice, that someone has wronged you, or someone has wronged someone you love, or someone else, or something in general, you will feel anger towards that thing or towards that person that's made you or someone you care about feel a negative emotion. When those whom I love turned against me, I wanted to win them back. I wanted their love and affection back because of how much I loved them, but rather as well how much I wanted their love and approval, how I felt it was a necessity for me because I was attached and I had that dependence on them. They painted me to be a certain person, and they had all these negative feelings towards me. Therefore, I subconsciously, at the expense of my own self-worth, I abandoned myself in favour of their view of me in order to win them back and be on their side. Because they hated me, I started to hate myself in hopes that maybe this justice for them would put us back together and win them back for me. Over a very long period of time, I eventually built up something resembling self-worth, and this was bypassing a grueling block of resistance, as I always say, and self-forgiveness. Once I started to feel this sense of self-worth, although it was very small at the time, it started to make me feel very angry, which is something I had not felt towards these people before. This is why I believe that anger derives out of justice fundamentally. At least one of the reasons it derives out of it, because I started to feel angry towards them rather than feeling angry towards myself. That anger was directed to the external rather than the internal, now that I was finally trying to get my own approval instead of theirs and be on my side. Because if you're not going to be on your side, who's going to be on your side? You're the only one you can ever count on to stand up for yourself and be there for yourself. But that's another separate video and another separate topic. So with this anger, of course, there was a sense of justice and there was a sense of resentment. By being angry towards them, I no longer felt like I was serving justice for them. I felt like I was serving justice for me. It was a very pivotal moment for me to feel angry towards them because it made me realise whose side I was finally on, that I was finally coming home to myself, and that's why when they came back, I held on to this anger, because they came back. Every single one of them came back. One of them I never ever thought would. And when he came back, it was in such a different way that I started to question, how long should I hold on? How long should we hold on to anger and injustice? I felt, and I still feel, so proud of myself for overcoming that cruelty that took over not only the external but internal world. And I was telling my friend the other day, it becomes the point of being like an overly loyal dog. It gets to the point where no matter how many times you punish or kick, obviously, God forbid you don't, but for example, if someone was kicking a dog, if it comes back each time, you feel less and less guilty because it's enabling in a way. How long should we hold on to anger and injustice? If we've got all these right reasons for holding on to them, if we've been wronged, and, you know, maybe in my case, you had no self-worth, but then you built it up, and you've got this anger and injustice towards the people who hurt you. How long should we hold on to anger and injustice, and therefore resentment? probably longer than I did. It was less of a kind of active anger, it was more a passive anger. I no longer felt kind of directly angry, but when I would get triggered, which was relatively often, I felt this sense of injustice and hatred, and I revelled in it. I loved that feeling because it made me feel proud. It made me feel like I had a tangible sense of direction, and that I had, most importantly, a tangible sense of progress. I could look at myself and be like, okay, 6 months ago, I hated myself. Maybe hated is a strong word. I felt resentment towards myself on others' behalf. I had abandoned myself. I had no self-worth. The only kind of concept of myself I had was one of other people's opinions projected onto me, which I enabled, which I wanted. Again, so I could be on their side. That's when attachment to others gets extremely dangerous, especially when they leave, taking you with them. You feel like once you've got this anger and resentment that, you know, it saves your spirit and it pronounces you as moved on. Like I said, I would look at myself, 2 different versions, and I could see, okay, I've travelled from A to B. This is the work that I put in. I am proud of myself. And it gives you momentum to keep moving forward, keep healing, keep growing and developing yourself. Like they say, make your bed first thing in the morning because it gives you a small task that you've accomplished. It was kind of like that for me. It was like me taking the first steps to heal and move on and learn how to love myself, which was such a beautiful thing. I was still yet to learn, however, that indifference is the true sign of fully moving on. I believed I believed that I was fully moved on. But that was until I got triggered, and like I said, this was relatively often, which leads me and us to the crucial questions. Can people change? What happens if and when they do? Should we forgive and forget? Convincing yourself that you don't care out of anger is an amazing feeling, and you think to yourself, I finally moved past it. You are enacting these feelings of anger and resentment out of a sense of injustice, which is beautiful. But it leads to a story in your head of victimization. And that's when things can be dangerous. I wrote down, resentment is a method of control when you feel otherwise powerless. Trying to control your internal and serve justice by cutting ties, hurting them back, so you can attempt to integrate this control externally. So basically, you feel out of control in the external. So you are projecting your injustice and resentment and anger towards these people so that you feel you're punishing them in a way. Probably subconsciously in an inadvertent way. But you hope that they can kind of feel this anger that you're projecting onto them. If you especially act out of this anger, you want to hurt them back. You want to serve justice. So let's fast forward a bit, 1.5 years after. You know how I said they all came back? This was when, the one who hurt me the most, who I never, ever, ever expected in a million years to come back. Ever. I expected the others to come back. By come back, I mean try and reconnect. I expected the others to try and reconnect with me, but not him. Not even in the slightest. It shook my world. It broke me like I knew it would. Even the mere thought of him ever coming back would make me tear up with this soul deep anger and kind of frustration, perhaps is the right word. So, as you can imagine, when out of the blue on a random weekend night, I get a text from him, it shakes up my world. I don't know what to do with myself. He's asking for closure, he's asking to reconnect, he's asking to meet up. If I met up with him for his closure, I risked disrupting all of mine. But the allure of it. They say curiosity killed the cat, and that is a popular phrase for a reason. Could I resist the chance to finally get the answers to the questions I had been wondering for the last 3 years? And most importantly, why now? The curiosity was too much, and I kind of convinced myself that I viewed this as an opportunity for me to look him in the eyes, tell him, you hurt me in XYZ, I don't want to talk to you, but hear out his apology, and prove to myself that I could be there for myself and stand up for myself and show up for myself was a placebo, so that I could hear what he had to say. Because if I didn't feel anything, if there wasn't anything there for me anymore, I wouldn't have met up with him. For the others, when I thought of them, I felt indifference. That's how I know I had no energy feeding into them, and I'll come back to this concept later. But with him, there was still a twinge of something there. There was still a trigger. Small, but it was there. I would still feel angry. I would still feel upset. He would pop into my head, very sparse and few and far in between, but that kind of anger was still there. A few days after we met up, I regretted it immensely. It was like uncanny how every single thing he said, every single thing he did was out of my wildest, most optimistic dream and hope. Every word that he said was just exactly what I had needed to hear a year and a half before. Normally, as I've outlined and mentioned, when I feel, or when I felt a bad, quote unquote bad, a negative, uncomfortable emotion, I would go through the process of finding the root cause of it and healing that. However, what, if any, trauma causes you to miss someone so deeply? How could I comprehend this? What do you do when a dream comes true, when you don't dream it anymore? So I cycled through trying to get myself to hate him again, and I know this was out of a self-protection method. As soon as we started being friends again and hanging out, I enjoyed spending time with him, and I wanted to be around him because you could see that he had changed, but I wasn't fully sure. But as soon as he left my sight, my body would go nuts. I was in a constant state of panic, thinking, what the hell have I done to myself? Why am I hanging out with him? Never go back to what broke you. But is what I went back to the same person? These are all things I had to think about. Long story short, he wasn't the same boy who broke my heart. That was painstakingly clear, whether I wanted to believe it or not. I could see a very, very real, healthy dynamic in store for us, the way you just know about things. And I was the only person blocking that. But how could I move forward with the one who made me move forward in the first place? Going back to him, abandoning myself and all of the grueling work that I put into myself. I wrote, the universe does not play. Whatever's meant for you will find you. He found me again. And letting this happen was one of the most difficult endeavours I've ever had to face. But releasing anger and forgiving has been immensely rewarding, and let me explain why. Because I kept thinking to myself, I don't know what to do. He's back and I don't know what to do. I'm torn. I'm torn between holding on to resentment and forgiving. I had two very different choices. I could go down the road of resentment and hold on to that as a way of kind of proving to myself how far I had come. Or I could forgive him and let go of that resentment, injustice and anger, no matter where that led us. If we ended up having a dynamic, that would be great. If not, that would be great too. That's what I was thinking, but I was so conflicted, as you can imagine, as you would probably be too. So, firstly, let's imagine someone from your past, if you're watching this, maybe they have, or your present has done something which they are asking forgiveness for. Remember, forgiving does not mean letting back into your life. Forgiving someone is purely the act of letting go and detaching from them, or in this case specifically, the bad the negative emotions and the trauma that they've caused you, not blaming them anymore, not needing them to take responsibility, not feeling a sense of injustice, anger towards them. You need to listen to your body, do your shadow work, feel, and it will be very difficult for this, whether forgiving them is right for you or not, whether it is in your best interest to forgive them. And that does not mean letting go of, that does not mean letting them back into your life if you don't want that. That is fine. But anger, a beautiful emotion as it is, as we've outlined, let me convince you to forgive, no matter the outcome, no matter the consequence. I had no reason to forgive the ones who hurt me, but I did, and now my life is infinitely better for it. Now let me show you what I wrote in my journal. Around the time I was so conflicted in that this was happening. I cannot move forward. And this was even independent of him, and you have to do this for yourself, and I'll explain why in a minute. With hate and injustice in my heart, I cannot continue to heal and push down emotions from a place of anger. Although it is a very powerful place and initiative to start with, and it makes you feel as though you have everything under control and that your anger is a form of justice on those who hurt you, as I've mentioned, you're stuck carrying that resentment through with you to everyone you meet. It will be there, waiting to get triggered until you can't ignore it and must heal it, because your body inevitably wants to release trauma and turn back to source. So with those emotions and vibrations inside of you, you're only going to attract more of the same until you clear it. So the bottom line here is, if you want to ascend and raise your vibrations, you know that you have to level up. Anger, resentment, injustice are low vibrational emotions. There's no two ways about it. There's a fine line between using anger and injustice as a catalyst for healing, like I mentioned I did, before it becomes a form of punishment and holds you back. It feels very, very hard and very, very unfair that quantum law tells us you cannot move on. Keyword, move. Nothing can flow where there is resistance. As I keep saying, where there is stagnicity, where there is a block, because resentment and injustice is a block. So if you want to get rid of every tie to that person and experience, you will always have emotional attachment to them and the past without clearing, when you don't clear anger, emotion, resentment out. But also for yourself, realise that you deserve to live a life of peace, one without attachment. You deserve to live a life of empowerment through peace. Resentment does you no favours for the long run. It only makes you ill and stuck and miserable and bitter. Why do you want that for yourself? Trust me. For example, to motivate you, there's a woman I know, let's call her Mary, and she was married to, let's call him Jim, for a long time. And when they split up, she had so much anger and resentment and injustice towards him that she never went anywhere. She stayed in the same house, same job, same emotions, bitterness, resentment. She was always bitching about him. Mind my French. So one day, she'd had enough. She decided to kind of clear this out. The second that she cleared this out, her kids, because they have kids, Mary and Jim, they had kids together. Jim kicked their kids out of his house, specifically the daughter, because he had nowhere to put that. Because Mary was subconsciously feeding him energy of control, because he still had a control over her emotions. So he needed subconsciously to feed that need, because he felt like he didn't have that feed of energy, so he tried to control his daughter, leading them to get kicked out. Even though the idea of your ex-counterpart experiencing some kind of reaction and karma from your emotional absence probably makes you very happy and sounds delicious, you cannot heal out of this because you are more than likely not be able to, since you are putting a conditional expectation on your healing. And I will talk about that more in another video as well. If they feel bad, fine. If they don't, thrive. Thrive! It's fine, because your energy is now within you and you do not care about externals. Your healing is for you, so you can feel better, and this is a great way to cultivate self-love, growth and worth. The universe and source, whatever you believe in, God, will sort out the rest for you. If they're meant to feel calmer through you, fine. If not, you're literally not going to care anyway. And that is the most rewarding thing, even more rewarding and delicious than anger and injustice, because it only keeps you stuck. There was a reason that I didn't meet anyone else during that time, but then the second I let go of all this stuff, people started coming into my life flowing because I had energetic room for them. Thank your feelings, because by feeling you're healing, it feels hard in the moment, but so rewarding when you get out of it. So, moral of the story, forgiveness helps you move on. Do it for you. Do it for you. By carrying resentment, anger and injustice around your whole life, even though they make you feel powerful, they make you feel in control, they make you feel empowered, empower yourself through peace. Empower yourself through living a life of detachment and knowing that you are free from your past, you are free from the ones who have hurt you, and you're not feeding them any more energy. Like yourself enough to feel angry for yourself, but love yourself enough to realise when it is time to let go and liberate yourself. To see how to heal, please see the video I did on feeling equals healing, why you must feel to heal, that kind of stuff. And yeah, this was kind of a quick one, I suppose. Not really quick, but a heavier one, a deeper one. But I'm glad I did it because it's very important information. I'll probably end up articulating this in a different way in the future. But good evening, good night. Thank you so much for watching, and I really appreciate all the recent kind of support. It's been really exciting and I'm very grateful for it. So good luck with your healing. Let me know how it goes if you need any help. I will be making more content on this. Drop a comment. Love you so much. Goodbye. Happy healing.